I was halfway through my second cup of coffee on a Tuesday morning in Dallas when the call came. The voice on the other end was deep, measured, almost too calm for what he was saying. "Is this Hannah Miller?" "Yes, speaking." "This is David Brooks. I'm the attorney for your late uncle, Robert Whitman." I froze. "Late? What do you mean?" "I'm afraid your uncle passed away last night. Heart complications." I leaned against the kitchen counter, my mind flashing to the last time I saw him. Frail in a hospital bed in Vermont, his sharp wit dulled but not gone. "I'm so sorry," I managed. "That's not all, Ms. Miller. I'll need you to come to my office. There are matters in his will that concern you directly." The words, "concern you," rang in my ears. I hadn't been close to Uncle Robert in years. Why would there be anything in his will for me? 4 hours later, I sat in David's leather-lined office. He slid a folder toward me. "Your uncle has left you his entire estate, valued at approximately $8.5 million, including the Vermont property." I blinked, convinced I'd misheard. "All of it? Are you sure?" He nodded. "There's also a personal letter." I unfolded the thick cream-colored stationery, his handwriting instantly familiar. "Dear Hannah, I've watched you grow from afar and admire your resilience. This money is a tool, not a solution. Use it well. True wealth isn't measured in dollars. Uncle Robert." The weight of the words settled on me. I wasn't just inheriting money, I was inheriting trust, responsibility, and a legacy. Driving home, I kept imagining Adam's face when I told him. We'd been struggling financially for years. His art career had stalled, my marketing job barely covered the bills, and the idea of finally breathing without the weight of debt was intoxicating. I stopped at a high-end jewelry store and bought him a $6,000 watch. Not to flaunt, but as a symbol of a new chapter. The rain began just as I merged onto I-35. I kept my speed steady, the watch box resting in the passenger seat. My heart felt light for the first time in years. That's when I saw it. A semi in the next lane beginning to jackknife, its trailer swinging into traffic. Tires screeched, horns blared. My hands gripped the wheel, but there was no escape. The last thing I remember was the blinding flash of headlights and the sound of metal folding like paper. Everything went black. I woke to the sound of beeping, slow, steady, mechanical. The light above me was blinding, and for a second I thought I'd died and ended up in some sterile, fluorescent version of heaven. But then came the pain. Sharp, burning, radiating from my ribs to my legs. I tried to move, and instantly regretted it. A woman in blue scrubs appeared, her brown hair tied in a neat bun. "Easy there," she said gently. "You've been through quite an ordeal. I'm Emily Carter, your nurse." I tried to speak, my throat dry like sandpaper. "Where?" "Baylor University Medical Center. You were in a bad car accident. You've got 3 broken ribs, a fractured femur, and some internal bruising. But you're lucky to be alive." Lucky. That word felt almost absurd given the pain shooting through my body. "Your husband?" "Adam," I whispered. "Has he been here?" Emily hesitated. "We called him multiple times. He didn't answer. Left voicemails. I told myself he must be on his way. Maybe he was too shocked to drive. Maybe he didn't know what to say. But as hours turned into a full day, the space beside my hospital bed stayed empty. On the 3rd day, Emily walked in during my physical therapy session. I was trying, and failing, to lift myself into a wheelchair. My phone buzzed on the side table. The caller ID lit up. Adam Miller. I grabbed it like a lifeline. "Adam!" My voice cracked. "Where are you? Hannah!" He interrupted, his tone cold, detached. I'm in the middle of something important. Important? I almost died. My voice broke. He sighed, as if I were inconveniencing him. Some of us are moving forward with our lives. And then he hung up. I sat there frozen, the weight of his words crushing me harder than the accident ever could. Emily put a hand on my shoulder, her face tight with concern. That night, Rachel, my best friend since college, showed up with takeout. She sat on the edge of the bed, unwrapping fried chicken and mashed potatoes, the smell almost enough to distract me from the ache in my chest. She didn't eat. She didn't even smile. Finally, she blurted out, "Hannah, I think you need to know something." "What?"
She looked away. "Adam's been seen with someone, a woman. They've been together, publicly. He's been telling people you didn't survive the crash." My stomach turned cold. Rachel, that's insane. He already had a memorial service," she said quietly, "at your apartment, last week." I felt the room tilt, my breath coming in short, uneven bursts. Rachel's voice was barely a whisper now. "And Hannah, there's more. You're not going to believe who she is." Rachel hesitated, her hands twisting the paper napkin into a tight coil. "Her name is Brooke," she said finally. "She's younger than you, maybe 19 or 20. Pretty, the kind of pretty that makes people look twice." I didn't understand why Rachel looked so pained saying it. "So what? He's cheating with some 20-year-old. It's disgusting, but..." Rachel cut me off. "Not just cheating. He's married her." For a second, I thought she was joking. Married her? Days after telling the world I was dead? The words made no sense in my head. "That's not even legal. I'm not dead, Rachel." "That's the thing," she said. "He's been showing people some kind of paperwork. Death certificate, I think. Hannah. He's telling everyone he's your widower." My chest tightened, and not just from the broken ribs. "Why would he... unless..." Rachel leaned in, her voice low. "I think it's about your uncle's inheritance. He must have figured out about the $8.5 million. My blood ran cold. Only Adam and my attorney, David Brooks, knew about the will, and I hadn't even told Adam the amount yet, just that there was something big coming our way. Rachel pulled out her phone and opened a photo. It was a screenshot from Facebook. Adam and Brooke, in front of a courthouse, his arm around her waist, her hand resting on his chest. The caption read, "Starting our forever today." I stared at the picture until the edges of my vision blurred. My husband, the man I had almost died thinking about, worrying about, had replaced me before my body had even healed. Emily came in to check my vitals and immediately sensed the tension. Rachel showed her the photo. Emily's face darkened. "That's the guy who came here yesterday," she said slowly. I jerked my head toward her. "What?" "He showed up at the nurse's station asking for a copy of your medical records. Said he needed to settle affairs. We told him only you could approve that, and he left looking annoyed." It was suddenly too much. The accident, the betrayal, the looming threat of Adam digging into things that didn't belong to him. And then Rachel dropped the real bomb. "Hannah, Brooke isn't just some random girl. She's..." She stopped, her voice catching. "She's who?" I demanded. Rachel's eyes glistened. "She's your daughter." The words hit like another crash. My mind flashed back to a hospital room 17 years ago, the tiny bundle I held for only minutes, the ink barely dry on the adoption papers. I had never told Adam about her. I had never told anyone, except my mother. So how in the hell did he know? For a long moment, I just stared at Rachel. "No," I said flatly. "That's impossible. You're wrong." "I wish I was," she whispered. But the more I tried to push the thought away, the more pieces began clicking into place. The small locked memory box in the back of our closet, the one I thought Adam had never noticed. It held the only photo I had of me holding my newborn daughter, a letter I'd written to her but never sent, and the adoption paperwork. 6 months ago, I'd found that box slightly out of place. I'd assumed I was the one who had shifted it. But now, I knew it was him. Rachel's phone buzzed. She glanced at the screen, then looked at me sharply. "It's Brooke. She just posted a picture." She turned the screen so I could see. Brooke in my kitchen, wearing my apron, stirring a pot on the stove. Adam in the background, grinning. The caption read, "Cooking for my husband while he works on our future." My stomach churned. This wasn't just betrayal, it was invasion. She was in my home. She was wearing my things. She was playing the role of wife in the life I had built. I called David Brooks immediately. He answered on the second ring. "Hannah, I've been trying to reach you. Something's happened." "What?" I asked, gripping the phone tight. "Your husband came to my office yesterday. He said you'd passed away. He brought Brooke with him, introduced her as your sister and next of kin. He had documents, a death certificate, even a signed letter, claiming you'd left everything to your closest living relative." My voice shook. "And?"
"I didn't buy it for a second," David said. "The signatures didn't match. I told him I'd have to verify everything with the court, and he got tense. Hannah, I don't think he's going to stop. He knows the estate transfers automatically to your direct descendants if you die without a will naming someone else." My heart dropped. "Which means if he's married to Brooke, he'd have access to the entire inheritance," David finished grimly. I sat there, silent, feeling like my body was splintering in ways no doctor could fix. Emily stepped in just then, checking my IV. She glanced at my face, then at the phone. "We need to keep you safe," she said. "If he thinks you're a threat to his plan." I didn't need her to finish that sentence. That night, I barely slept. Every creak of the hospital floor made me flinch. The thought that Adam might actually try to finish what fate had failed to do on the highway wasn't paranoia anymore. It was logic. I had to get out of that bed. I had to stop him. And I had to find Brooke. Before she realized the man she'd married wasn't just a liar, but a predator. By morning, my fear had hardened into something sharper. Resolve. Lying in that hospital bed, I felt like prey. And I hated feeling like prey. David came to see me just after sunrise, carrying a thick manila envelope. "I've been digging," he said, without preamble. "Adam forged your death certificate using a template from an online vendor. The signature for the attending physician is fake, but convincing enough for someone not looking closely." My stomach tightened. "And the marriage to Brooke?" "Legal," he said grimly. "They went to the Travis County Courthouse. He claimed you died, showed them the paperwork, and Brooke signed without hesitation. The thought of my daughter, my flesh and blood, standing beside him in a courthouse made me want to scream." David sat beside my bed. "If we're going to stop him, we need proof that he's manipulating her and targeting your inheritance. And we need it before he tries to liquidate any assets." Emily had been hovering near the doorway. She stepped inside now, lowering her voice. "What if we lure him here? Make him think he's about to get what he wants, but instead—" David's eyes narrowed. "A sting operation?" "Exactly," Emily said. "We record everything, show Brooke the truth, and if we're lucky, get enough to take to the police." The plan came together quickly. I would call Adam, pretending I'd had a change of heart. I'd tell him I was signing over the estate to Brooke, out of guilt for keeping her a secret all these years. The bait was irresistible.
It would look like his scheme had worked without him having to lift another finger. Rachel came by that afternoon, and when I explained the plan, she was all in. "I'll be here too," she said. "He's less likely to try anything violent if there's more than one witness." At 7 p.m., I made the call. My hands shook as the line rang. Adam answered on the first ring. "Hannah," he said, his voice a mockery of concern. "I heard you were in the hospital. I didn't think you'd want to talk to me." "I've been thinking," I said, forcing my tone to sound hesitant. "About Brooke. About what I owe her. If I die without naming a beneficiary, the estate could get messy. I'd rather make things right now." There was a pause. "What exactly are you saying?" "I'm saying I want to sign everything over to her, but it has to be tonight, at the hospital. David's here. He can witness it." He didn't answer right away, but when he did, his voice was warm, eager. "I'll be there in an hour. And Hannah, you're doing the right thing." When the call ended, David looked at me gravely. "He's coming. Now let's make sure we're ready for whatever he tries." What none of us expected was that Adam wouldn't be coming alone. The hospital room felt colder than usual as we prepared. David checked the recording equipment, 2 small audio devices hidden under the side table and in the drawer of my rolling tray. Emily adjusted the placement of a portable camera she'd tucked behind a stack of supply boxes near the corner. Rachel paced like a caged animal. My mind kept flashing back to Adam's voice on the phone. That warmth. That fake warmth. I'd heard it before, back when he was convincing me to trust him with my heart, my home, my life. At 8:12 p.m., the elevator down the hall dinged. Footsteps followed. Slow. Deliberate. The rhythm of a man who thought the world bent for him. When Adam stepped into the room, it was like seeing a ghost I wanted to banish. His tailored shirt was crisp, his hair perfectly styled, his smile surgically precise. And beside him was Brooke. She was wearing a soft blue sundress, her blonde hair falling in waves over her shoulders. Her eyes, my eyes, scanned the room and stopped on me. A flicker of something passed over her face, but it wasn't recognition. Adam squeezed her hand like a puppeteer working his strings. "Hannah," he said smoothly. "You look better than I expected." I forced a thin smile. "Guess the rumors of my death were exaggerated." Brooke's brow furrowed slightly at that, but Adam kept talking, gliding closer to my bed. "Let's not waste time. You said you want to sign everything to Brooke?" David stepped forward. "We can go over the paperwork. But first, I think Hannah has something to say to her." I turned to Brooke. My voice shook despite my best efforts. "I don't know what Adam told you, but I'm your biological mother. I was 17 when I had you. I made the hardest choice of my life giving you up." Her lips parted, but Adam jumped in fast. "Brooke, you don't have to listen to this nonsense. She's confused, Adam!" David cut in. "We have proof you've been lying to her, and to the courts." Adam's jaw tightened. "Proof? What proof?" Emily, calm as ever, moved to the corner and pressed a button on the small camera. The screen on the wall lit up, showing a live feed of the conversation, including Adam's admission on the phone earlier. For a moment, his expression faltered. Then, the mask slipped back into place. "You think a little recording will stop me?" He sneered. Brooke stepped back from him. "What's going on? You told me she was dead." The tension snapped tight, and I knew in that instant we were balanced on the edge of something dangerous. Because Adam's hand was sliding into his jacket pocket, and I didn't think he was reaching for a pen. Adam's fingers lingered inside his jacket pocket, his knuckles flexing. David's stance shifted. Protective, ready, and Emily subtly stepped closer to my bed, placing herself between me and Adam. Adam, David said evenly, whatever you're thinking of doing, don't. Adam's smile was tight, predator thin. Relax, I'm just getting a piece of paper. But when his hand emerged, it wasn't holding paper. It was holding a small black folding knife. Brooke gasped, stepping back so quickly her heel caught on the chair leg. The chair tipped over with a loud crash. Put it down, David ordered, his voice sharp now. Adam didn't. His gaze locked on me, cold and unblinking. You were supposed to make this easy, Hannah. You were supposed to just disappear. Rachel moved toward the call button on the wall, but Adam's eyes darted to her. Don't, he warned. The air in the room turned thick, heavy. My heartbeat was a pounding drum in my ears. You think you can steal from me? Adam said, his voice low but shaking with fury. You think you can humiliate me in front of her? He jerked his head toward Brooke.
She's mine now. Everything you built, everything you inherited, it's ours. Brooke's voice trembled. You lied to me. He turned on her. I gave you a life. You'd still be a waitress in some dive if it wasn't for me. And that was his mistake. While his attention was fixed on her, Emily lunged. In one swift motion, she grabbed his wrist and twisted. The knife clattered to the floor. David was on him in the next instant, shoving him back against the wall. Rachel slammed the call button, and within seconds, 2 hospital security guards charged in. They pinned Adam's arms behind his back, while David kicked the knife out of reach. Adam snarled, straining against their grip, but he wasn't going anywhere. Brooke stood frozen, her hands trembling. I looked at her, really looked, and saw the confusion and betrayal warring in her expression. He told me you were dead, she said again, softer this time. I nodded. I know, but I'm here, and I need you to hear the truth, from me, without his voice in the middle. The guards hauled Adam out, his threats echoing down the hallway. David retrieved the knife with a tissue and slipped it into an evidence bag. When the room finally fell quiet, Brooke stepped forward. Her eyes searched mine, and I saw it. The faint, fragile beginning of recognition. But the danger wasn't over, because even in cuffs, Adam wasn't the kind of man to let go. The room still smelled faintly of adrenaline, that strange metallic tang left after a fight. I could hear my own breathing, slow and uneven, as I tried to steady myself. Brooke pulled the chair upright and sat down, but she didn't take her eyes off me. Start from the beginning, she said. David and Rachel slipped quietly to the far side of the room, giving us space. Emily stayed by the door, arms crossed, watchful. I took a deep breath. You were born when I was 17. I was scared, broke, and completely alone. I thought adoption would give you a better life. I never stopped thinking about you, but the agency promised confidentiality. I didn't even know your name until... My voice caught. Until Adam found you. Brooke's brow furrowed. He told me you'd abandoned me and that he saved me. He made it sound like you'd done something awful. I shook my head. No, I made a choice I thought was right at the time, and I never imagined he'd use that choice to hurt both of us. She sat back, crossing her arms. Why would he do all this? The marriage, the lies, the death certificate. David spoke up. Because your mother inherited close to $5 million from her parents. If she died without a will, it would legally pass to her closest living relative, you. Adam knew that, and if he was married to you, he'd have access to it all. Brooke stared at him
like he'd just spoken another language.
5 million?
I nodded. It was meant to help me take care of family, and that means you, not him. She pressed her palms to her temples. I don't even know what's real anymore. Emily's voice was gentle, but firm. What's real is that he walked in here with a knife tonight, and men like him don't give up when they lose once. That truth sat heavy in the air. David pulled out his phone.
I've got a friend at the DA's office. We'll push for charges. But Hannah, you and Brooke both need protection. Adam's in custody now, but if he's been planning this for months, there's a good chance he's looped in someone else.
Rachel frowned. Someone else? Like who? David glanced toward the window. Friends, business partners, people who don't mind getting their hands dirty if the payoff's big enough. I saw Brooke flinch at that, her gaze dropping to the floor. A thought slid into my mind, cold and unwelcome. What if she wasn't just scared of Adam, but of someone else in his orbit? When she finally looked up again, there was something guarded in her eyes. I think I know who he might call for help, she said quietly. Brooke's hands twisted in her lap, her voice barely above a whisper. There's a man named Travis Kane. Adam calls him a problem solver. I've only met him twice, but I know he's dangerous. The kind of dangerous that doesn't flinch at blood. David's expression darkened instantly. What's his connection? They used to run some kind of real estate scam together. When Adam needed someone intimidated, or worse, Travis showed up. He's not the type to ask questions, just gets it done. Emily spoke from the doorway. If Adam's in custody, there's a chance he's already sent word to Kane. That means Kane might not wait for instructions. He might think it's his job to finish whatever Adam started. The words sat heavy in my chest. David was already moving, phone pressed to his ear. I'll call Detective Harper. We'll get a bolo on Kane's vehicle and photo. Brooke, do you know where he's based? She hesitated. He has a garage just outside town, off Highway 183. Adam took me there once when they were celebrating something. There were guns. A lot of guns. Rachel stepped closer to Brooke. You should have said something sooner. Brooke's eyes flashed. You think I trusted you? I didn't even know you existed until an hour ago. The sting of her words was sharp, but I couldn't blame her. Adam had poisoned her mind for years. Trust wouldn't grow in a night.
David hung up the phone. Harper's on it, but he says Kane is slippery. If he's already on the move, we can't just wait here.
Emily shook her head.
We can move Hannah, but Kane might still try to get to Brooke. She's the one who ties him to Adam legally.
For a moment, nobody spoke.
Then Brooke exhaled sharply. If he's coming, we don't run. We make it so when he gets here, the only thing waiting for him is a wall of cops.
David arched a brow.
You willing to help set the bait?
Her chin lifted.
After what Adam's done?
Yeah. Plans moved fast after that. Harper coordinated plainclothes officers to be stationed inside and outside the hospital. Emily stayed on the door. David positioned himself by the elevators. Rachel kept watch from the nurses' station. I lay in bed, heart pounding, knowing we'd just turned my hospital room into a trap. At 10:42 p.m., my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. On my way, don't talk to cops. Brooke's eyes widened when she saw it. That's Kane. And somewhere deep inside, I knew the final confrontation was coming, and it wouldn't end quietly. Do you want me to roll straight into part 10? The final reckoning, where Kane arrives and everything comes to a head in the last explosive scene. You said, okay, ChatGPT said, here's part 10, the finale of the 10-part series. Part 10, the final reckoning, The minutes after Brooke read Kane's text felt like holding our breath underwater, waiting to see who surfaced first. David quietly adjusted his position by the elevator, one hand resting near the concealed holster on his belt. Emily leaned against the doorframe, calm but alert. Rachel typed rapidly on her phone, feeding Harper updates so the officers outside could tighten their net. Brooke sat beside my bed, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. For the first time since she'd walked into my life, she looked less like someone trapped in Adam's shadow and more like a woman ready to stand in her own light. At 11:03 p.m., the elevator doors slid open. Kane stepped out like he owned the place. 6'2", built like a truck, leather jacket over a dark t-shirt, eyes scanning with predator precision. In one hand, he carried a small duffel. The way the strap strained, I knew it wasn't filled with clothes. He spotted the room number and started toward us, unhurried. Emily didn't move. "Evening," she said casually. Kane smirked. "Don't think we've met. You a nurse?" "Something like that," she replied. He tried to sidestep her, but David was suddenly behind him. "Travis Kane, you're under arrest for conspiracy to commit." Kane's response was fast and violent. He swung the duffel up like a club, catching David in the shoulder, then shoved Emily hard enough to slam her against the wall. The bag hit the floor with a metallic clank. A gun inside. Brooke gasped, standing halfway between Kane and my bed. "Travis! Move!" he barked, pulling a pistol from the duffel. And then all hell broke loose. David tackled him low, knocking the gun hand sideways. A shot went off, the deafening crack bouncing around the small room. The bullet punched into the ceiling tiles. Emily grabbed Kane's wrist and wrenched, forcing him to drop the weapon. It skittered across the floor, stopping near Brooke's feet. For a split second, time slowed. Brooke looked at the gun, looked at Kane. Then she kicked it hard, sending it sliding under my bed. 2 plainclothes officers burst in, helping David wrestle Kane down. In less than 30 seconds, he was cuffed, cursing and spitting threats. When they hauled him away, the room went quiet except for the hum of medical machines and my racing heartbeat. Brooke turned to me, her eyes wet. I believe you now." I reached for her hand. "We've both lost enough years to Adam's lies. Let's not waste any more." David retrieved the gun from under the bed, handing it to Harper's team. "This ends here," he said. Maybe it did. Or maybe Adam's shadow would linger longer than any of us wanted. But for the first time in years, I felt like I'd survived not just for myself, but for the family I'd almost lost twice.